All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Tellor Community Call, March 16th, 2021. Tomorrow's St. Patty's Day. So anyway, should be a relatively quick call today. Just going to kind of go over a few things and then we'll talk about, go over your questions. So first, kind of in the news, the token migration. So I know last week we were live with the Uniswap LPs able to sort of migrate over, and it looks like most of the Uniswap and Balancer tokens are over. But if you're having any trouble or if you have any sort of issues, definitely reach out to us. Right now we're at a little over, I think 2/3 of the tokens are migrated. There's a few other big exchanges still that have to migrate. But it should be relatively simple and quick for them. If you have a custom contract, though, those are the ones that we mainly want to worry about. We sort of have to help you migrate over. So, if your tokens are locked in some other DeFi contract, for instance, or you had, for some reason, locked them in a wallet that you can't access them, let us know and we can help you out. Other than that, it's looking like it's going smoothly. Hopefully over the next, we're just hoping, obviously there's no time frame on it. If you just have a normal wallet and you don't feel like migrating it right now, you don't ever have to. You can hold indefinitely in the old Tellor token. It will always be there. So that said, other things, Binance did open up that was kind of the big news of today. Yep. So Binance is the first centralized exchange to open back up. They completed the migration process and they opened back up the withdrawals and deposits, made the Uniswap sort of, of arbitrage on the decentralized and centralized exchanges. So that was super exciting. It's great to see that things are moving. The mining difficulty is starting to stabilize, I think. We can definitely talk about that at some point. Hopefully it's higher than it's sort of ever been before, bar the last one where it wasn't constrained by anything. But basically, since it is really high, it means that most of the larger pools that were using FPGAs to mine on Tellor, they have all migrated over and are continuing again with their FPGAs to mine on Tellor, which is super exciting. We sort of knew that they all came over. Most of them were kind of in custom contracts, so we helped them out. But it's good to see that most of the proof of work has kind of come over, and hopefully we can get kind of a robust system here where everything sort of works and is fair. We do know that Tellor Pool was the public pool for people to kind of jump on board. That is not starting back up again. Shepard on Discord, who runs it, I think he found another job. So he unfortunately, there is an open area. So if somebody wants to run a public pool, kind of some other things as far as kind of integrations go. If you guys saw, there is one contract there called Liquidity. They're getting audited by Consensus right now, and they're looking to implement Tellor. They just they're not running us at the moment, and I know we don't usually announce anything before they're actually running us, but they announced a pretty big bug bounty for finding errors in their smart contracts. And since they use Tellor, if you guys are a developer or an auditor or something like that, go audit their code for them. Go look at the Tellor piece, make sure that doesn't fail. So the way that they have it implemented is they use Chainlink actually, and then they use Tellor if Chainlink breaks, which is, it's cool to be, the security fallback there. Speaking of auditing code, our very own JG is giving a session on auditing code today. And if we get a recording of that, we'll definitely pass it on to you guys. So that'll be, if you guys didn't know, he used to work at Solidified. So yeah, I should know that. And he'll be auditing some code live, and it should be good.
Are we going to share that in the channel, JG?
Do you want people there live?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, only if you ask easy questions.
Yes. Throw him some softballs.
Yeah.
Make him look smart.
Any other events or things coming up? I think that's kind of it. But
Nothing we can announce yet.
Okay, yeah, we're working on finding some new hackathons and stuff. Over the next few weeks, we're just going to be buttoning up. So we have chorus and fellowship, and then adding back in the upgradability pieces to the Tellor repo. So it should be pretty. It's nice to kind of be almost done with this migration stuff from the team's perspective. So we have like some free time to do some developer work now. And then I also just finished the first draft of a post-mortem, so kind of on just what happened last month. We'll be, if it's not out by this time next week, like give us a really hard time, because somebody's not proofreading. We're not getting it out the door. So, and with that, we're gonna push it over to Tally, who's gonna just give us a quick update. He made some graphs on the new Tellor, the new Tellor contract, and we just wanted to show you kind of, I thought they were interesting, and it would be fun to kind of show to people. So Tally, off to you.
Thanks. I'm going to share my screen. I have a CoOp Notebook, which if anyone any developers in the community are familiar with, is a sort of like a Jupyter notebook, which in other words is Python that you can run in segments. And I have this chart here, sort of like reference point for the migration of the TRB supply. One thing that I was just, one thing that you can sort of like imagine in your head is right around here, like right at the top of this chart is where the old total supply was. It was about like 1.7 or 1.8 million. So you can see that at 1.4 million, we're getting pretty close. And this is the big Binance wallet moment. So that's an important segment. And that was like a big piece of the total supply to migrate, which was nice. Of course,
so
it's
you can also point out to people, where's our multi-sig? I think our multi-sig is that first bump way on the left.
Yeah.
Even farther on the left. So like the blue bump
Yeah.
upwards.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah. So I mean, like we are a very small portion of the total supply. And obviously Binance. So that was just one Binance wallet. Binance had a whole lot of wallets. The vast majority of the supply is on Binance. Just take it for what it's worth. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, really, that's about it. I mean, most of what you can see is that sort of like different segments of major migrations. And then aside from that, you can see like red is inflation here. So you can see that aside from the few bumps from like significant sudden migrations, the system seems to be working as it was before, which is ideal. Yeah.
So I'll give you a pop quiz.
Co-op, I just want to see what's the code. What's the actual code to get this?
Oh, sure. Yeah. And something that I can mention is that this whole tool is something that if people in the community are interested, and if you are, you can holler on Telegram, or you can ping me on Telegram or on Discord even. This is a sort of public notebook that I can make a copy of and can be distributed. And basically what it does is it contacts like Google's BigQuery service, which turns the Ethereum blockchain into like a relational database, and then do some queries. This query just says like pick up every ERC20 transaction where from a specific table that's refers to ERC20 transfers, and pick up every transfer that goes through the Tellor address, contract address. So here's what the data frame actually looks like. This is the data set. And I always keep record of this. So if you were ever to like replicate this by cloning this notebook, first thing you'd see after doing the query is you'd see how many token transfers have happened so far. So almost 9,000. After that, and so some other stuff that's here, it's not absolutely cleaned up, but I was working on getting a record of daily active miners and monthly active miners on here. The general scope of this process is that there are some queries that sit on Dune Analytics, but we're in the long term trying to move some of those, actually most of those queries onto, or whatever is appropriate really, onto an updated Tellor scan that's also like somewhat of a dashboard. So I've just been prototyping yeah, prototyping these different graphs and what would be suitable and what wouldn't be on this notebook before it gets moved on to a permanent website. Here in reference to it's just some formatting for the values and converting them from like really big ints to something that's more readable, as we often do in Ethereum land, dividing by 1 e to the 18. And then this is just for the sake of calculating total supply, sort of have to calibrate like the direction of transfers, because if you just summed up, if you just did a cumulative sum of every transfer, then it wouldn't actually equate to total supply because there are some burns. So this is just accounting for that. Here you can see like the sorted values of transactions from largest to smallest. So looks like at the time that I ran this, largest was something like 50,000 TRB. And yeah, this is the calculation of total supply. So it's cumulative sum, but as I mentioned before, like I had to do some correction, and what I did actually up here was that if it was a burn, I set the value to negative. I multiplied it by -1 so that it would actually in the sum subtract instead of add. And one thing for flexibility is that I hadn't yet calculated inflation in an annualized fashion. But one thing that you can do here to sort of like get some context is you can uncomment or uncomment this line out, and that will sort of like dictate whether you want the total supply. I mean, whether you want the inflation measured in relation to the total supply, which like most of the time would be very close to 0, or otherwise you'll see if you keep this commented out, you'll actually get the TRB that's sort of minted in like every 25 teller blocks, something like that. And yeah, so you can get sort of like a little bit more of like some context into. So like if you had this, if you didn't have this commented out, you'd look at this graph as it is now, and you'd say like, oh, like there's just no inflation and nothing's happening. But you can actually see here that this is actually, so like 1,068 for average for 25 blocks. So yes, inflation is happening, but no crazy percentages. Everything less than at least 0.2%. So I think that's pretty much it. Any questions from anyone?
No, that's pretty clear. Thank you. So did you say 0.2%
Oh, cool, yeah.
every what, 15 minutes? Or
I think less than that, and I'll actually demonstrate it if you'd like. Oh yeah, right. It happens to the best of us. So here you can say it's, I forget what that unit represents, the U with the line, with the special line, but it reflects like it's, you know, here's 0.1%, and this is where inflation is. You can see like even with the Binance wallet bump, it makes it to 0.65. And
Well, I think so like it makes more sense in an annualized fashion, I think, because
totally, yeah.
so like, well, what's pop quiz? What would be what is approximately the Tellor inflation rate currently, like with just mining rewards, no minting?
It's like 1.5%, right?
No.
I know it's 1 Tellor per minute, but I don't know how much that equates to.
What is it?
1 Tellor per minute.
Yep.
1 Tellor per minute.
1 Tellor per minute. Well, that's the inflation. So I think it calculates out, I think we're somewhere like around 15% inflation rate.
I was off. I was way off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you wanted to look at like what an annualized number would look like. So if we print 1 Tellor a minute, it's going to be roughly, you know, 15%. So that's like the inflation rate. It's really normal, you know, probably on the low side for a lot of tokens of our size. But that's, you know, usually it's either like like Synthetics for a long time had like 80% inflation right when they updated their token because they were really trying to increase. And, like a lot of new tokens, like you just have like liquidity rewards and like, Sushi Swap style, and you have like 70% inflation on a monthly basis. Because you're just printing so much money to incentivize something. Or you have like the opposite problem, which is like, like a chain link where you have just zero inflation ever. And, the team just starts with 90% of the supply and inflates the supply by just, paying for things and transferring out of their own address. So different ways to do it. But thank you, Tally. Yeah,
Yeah, thanks.
that was fun. Can't wait to see some more graphs maybe next time. Mike, questions?
Yeah.
Just have a couple. First one is, when will the transfer to Binance Exchange be opened? It is opened as of last night. What is your purpose in crypto? Well, the purpose of an oracle is to bring off-chain data on-chain, in a nutshell. But what's the deeper purpose? To bring to enable censorship-resistant applications on Ethereum.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can sort of have a company purpose as far as like the overarching goal that we're working towards is like the overall Oracle piece. I always find it weird, like whenever companies have too specific of like value propositions and like moral codes and things like that. It's, like everyone here, as far as like the team goes, this call's just on the team, like everyone can have and probably does have their own reasons for kind of getting in crypto and why they sort of believe in it or don't believe in it. And that's all good. Like some of us may be more, dreaming of a utopian future on the libertarian side, others on more of a community democratic side. But or it's more pragmatic where you're doing it more for money and feel like it's an interesting technology. It's not necessarily a bad thing. I'd say, you just want to find people who are, as far as the team goes and building a community, you want people who are sort of honest and sort of focused on choosing the goal that we have as sort of a collective group, which is more so building the best Oracle that we can and making sure that we're doing something that actually makes sense and that we feel like is making the world a better place.
That's it. I was just going to say that I think after we used to say, we used to focus on decentralization and freedom and using all these sort of catch-all terms. But the thing that I think really has the common line that we've stuck with through the last couple of years for sure has been, we wanted to build Tellor to make sense. And the type of projects we want to partner with and that we want to support are ones that we look at and we say like, this makes sense in a decentralized world. And
yeah, and I think obviously we have you want the community to sort of fit your overarching beliefs, I would say we're generally, if we're building this Oracle to provide, off-chain engine for Wall Street to make money off of retail investors, that would probably not really give us a reason to wake up in the morning. We feel like crypto can be more than that. And we usually like to try and find and focus our efforts on doing so. So yeah, that kind of, I don't know if that's the best answer, but
yes,
you want it to be kind of vague. You don't what's your purpose in crypto, kind of purpose in life. It's, if you have too specific of one, there's something wrong.
Well, it's like
with
the meaning of life is to search for the meaning of life. I think I got that out of the Joe Rogan, Elon Musk interview. It's just like, it's the journey, not the destination.
Mars is the destination.
Yes, all of it. Well, it's just that's one stepping stone. Whom do you guys see as competitors and what gives you an edge over the competition?
Yeah, so I think if
Centralized oracles in general.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at, who are the current competition, you obviously have Chainlink, Band, Maker to some extent. I think that maybe API 3. I don't know if I would really, they're
new kid on the block.
Yeah, there's these guys out there who also provide sort of similar services, and we have some of those. I would say, like, obviously with that, the main piece is going to be, what would it be? Just decentralization and kind of the focus on community and building something that actually makes sense. We don't want
An Oracle that can't be
yeah,
shut down.
like we feel like having a censorship resistant Oracle is actually important, whereas, we don't see a whole lot of that in the other competitors. But I would say, like, moreover, the competition at this stage isn't really that big of a deal. Anytime you're in an early stage startup, people always try and focus on out competing the competition when it's so early. Hopefully, like, it's one of these things where if we can just help each other and we can actually make the whole space bigger, like, everybody can succeed and be billion-dollar companies. You don't need to sort of eat the other people right now. Like, we were even talking about, like, the other day, like, like, Uniswap came on the scene and ate up basically the entire decentralized exchange space. So, like, it doesn't matter that Bancor had a hundreds of millions of dollar ICO. It doesn't matter that 0x and you had all the relayer infrastructure, you had AirSwap, you had, on-chain dexes. Like, these things were all supposed to, they all had their own narrative for being a great success. And but it was ultimately a new guy that came along and beat them at their own game. And you see the same thing over and over again as far as these newer platforms coming along and sort of beating it out. Like, who would have said, a few years ago, like, that, if you look even like the early Bitcoin days, like the 2013, who were the winners, and then who were the winners 5 years later, it's like very rarely the same people. So, like Bitcoin and Ethereum aside. So, the biggest competition that we sort of have at the moment is probably going to be a newcomer, and making sure that we can sort of adapt and move quickly enough so we become in the realm of the Ethereums or Bitcoins, where we become kind of the unshakable foundation eventually.
And I think at this point also our edge is on the fact that we are smaller, that we don't have to deal with that much bureaucracy, and that we can be flexible, as we see the state, just the space grow and change. I think that's part of our age, and is including like the type of verticals that we go into and what we're using Tellor for and how we're designing it for the new, for layer 2 solutions. I think that's our edge, like the fact that we're small enough to be able to be flexible and be quick.
Cool. Yeah, I agree.
That's it.
Anything else, guys? All right. Well, obviously, thanks, team, for joining. We'll be posting this. And, yeah, that's it. And we'll talk to you guys next week. I think next week we're going to try and do a community or a tech call. I don't know yet. I'll let you guys know. And yeah, talk to you guys soon. See you.